just not myself when you're away.
Some of the greatest country songs ever written never cracked the top 10. One was buried in a vault for 5 years by the man who eventually made it his signature. One was inspired by a ghost, literally, according to the man who wrote it.
11 months ago, and I was sitting.
One won a bar full of hardened songwriters and industry executives Song of the Year for a song that was never even released as a single. These aren't deep cuts nobody liked. These are songs that terrified radio programmers. Songs that told the truth when Nashville wanted a lie.
Solid country gold. Then I noticed a stranger was ghost like pale when I asked him for.
Songs so good they made grown men in cowboy hats cry into their whiskey at awards shows. And somehow, most of America forgot every single one of them. Tonight, we're digging them back up. 15 of the most quietly devastating, criminally overlooked songs in country music history.
I'm calling to you like a long lost friend, but I know who you.
Counted down from 15 to the one story that still, to this day, makes songwriters go silent when they tell it. Let's start at the bottom of the list, and the top of the heartbreak.
Letters that I write, they think I'm fine.
Number 15, Skip a Rope, Henson Cargill, 1968.
Oh, listen to the children while they play.
Picture a schoolyard, 2 girls turning a jump rope, a third one skipping in the middle, singing some silly little rhyme the way kids do. Except the rhyme isn't silly at all. Skip a Rope was the debut single from a former Oklahoma City deputy sheriff named Henson Cargill.
Funny what the children say, skip a rope.
A man who'd worked court clerk jobs and ridden patrol before anyone in Nashville knew his name. Written by Jack Moran and Glenn Douglas Tubb, the song used the sing-song cadence of a child's game to smuggle in something Nashville radio absolutely did not want in 1967.
Skip a rope. Skip a rope.
A direct accusation that children learn hatred, dishonesty, and racism by watching their own parents. Nashville was hesitant to even release it. It came out anyway, and spent 5 straight weeks at number 1 on the Billboard country chart, crossed over to number 25 on the pop chart, and years later,
Or who's to blame? Skip a rope.
Garth Brooks would cite it as one of the songs that shaped how he thought about songwriting. A number 1 hit, 5 weeks at the top, and ask 10 country fans under 50 if they've ever heard it. You'll get 10 blank stares. Turns out,
Funny what the children say.
being number 1 doesn't guarantee you get remembered. Case in point, our next entry, a song about wanting to go home, written by 2 men who'd never really left.
Play. It's really not very funny.
Number 14, Detroit City, Bobby Beer, 1963. A factory floor, fluorescent lights, a man on his break writing a letter home he already knows he'll never send, because in it he'd have to admit he's failed. Detroit City was written by Danny Dill and Mel Tillis, years before Tillis became a Hall of Fame songwriter in his own right.
Papa, sister, and brother, I dreamed about the.
And it became Bobby Bear's breakout hit in 1963. It's the story of the Great Migration turned inside out. The Southern worker who chased the promise of the assembly line north, only to find himself homesick, broke, and too ashamed to go back. The song reached number 6 on the Billboard country chart, cracked the pop top 20, and won Bobby Bare a Grammy for Best Country and Western Recording. It's since been recorded by everyone from Dolly Parton to Jerry Lee Lewis to soul singer Joe Tex.
Home folks think I'm big in Detroit City.
And here's the part that gets lost. Bare wasn't even the first to record it. Country singer Billy Graham beat him to it months earlier under the title I Wanna Go Home. Graham's version also charted. Nobody remembers that one at all.
Day I make the cars, by night I make.
Sometimes it's not the song that gets forgotten, it's the story hiding underneath it. Speaking of hiding, our next song spent 50 years quietly holding one of the darkest secrets in country music.
And after all these years, I find that I've just been wasting my time.
Number 13, The Class of '57, The Statler Brothers, 1972.
Grocery store and Margaret doesn't care. Jerry drives a truck with Sears.
A high school reunion, 15 years out. Everybody smiling for the photo, catching up, remembering who had the biggest dreams. The Statler Brothers built The Class of '57 as a walk down memory lane, 4-part harmony.
Or maybe we just thought the world would change.
Gospel-trained voices, a wistful little tune about a fictional graduating class. Written by brothers Don and Harold Reed, it starts exactly where you'd expect. Old friends becoming teachers, mechanics, small business owners. And then, verse by verse,
Runs a trailer park, Jan sells Tupperware, Randy's on an insane.
it doesn't stay that way. Betty runs a trailer park, Randy's in an institution, Charlotte married a millionaire, and Freddie, the man she left behind, took his own life. The song hit number 6 on the Billboard country chart,
Anybody's bet. Linda married Sonny. Brenda married.
and won the Statler Brothers a Grammy for Best Country Vocal Performance by a Duo or Group in 1972. For a song that, underneath 4-part harmony sweet enough for church, is one of the bleakest character studies country music ever produced. It sounds like nostalgia,
When you get past 18, but the class of '57 had its dream.
it's actually an autopsy of the American dream. From a class reunion to a gallows, our next entry is the one songwriters call an instant folk song, because it was never a folk song at all. Number 12, Long Black Veil, Lefty Frizzell, 1959.
On a cold, dark night, there was some.
A scaffold at dawn. A man about to hang for a murder he didn't commit. He could clear his name in one sentence. He never says it. Songwriters Danny Dill and Marijon Wilkin built Long Black Veil out of 3 unrelated pieces.
Life, for I had been in the arms of my bed.
An old gospel song called God Walks These Hills With Me, a real newspaper account of an unsolved priest's murder in New Jersey, and the invented legend of a mysterious veiled woman who visited Rudolph Valentino's grave. A legend, it turns out, a Hollywood publicist made up for a movie in 1928.
Nobody knows.
Dill and Wilkin finished the song hours before a scheduled meeting with Lefty Frizzell. Frizzell heard it once, on a cassette in a convenience store parking lot, and recorded it that same day. It reached number 6 on the Billboard country chart.
And shed not a tear, but sometimes.
Became one of the most covered songs in American music. Johnny Cash, Joan Baez, the band, Bruce Springsteen. And in 2019, the Library of Congress inducted it into the National Recording Registry as culturally and historically significant.
In a long black veil, she cries, oh.
A song built entirely from fiction, borrowed folklore, and a fake ghost story, now preserved by the United States government as a piece of American heritage. Speaking of ghosts, The next song on this list has one written directly into the credits.
No, nobody sees. No.
Number 11, The Ride. David Allan Coe, 1983.
Well, I was thumbing from Montgomery. I had my guitar on my back. When this
A hitchhiker on a lonely stretch of highway between Montgomery, Alabama, and Nashville, Tennessee. An antique Cadillac pulls over. The driver is pale, dressed like it's still 1952. Songwriter Gary Gentry claimed the song came to him after what he called a redneck seance, lighting candles, demanding the spirit of Hank Williams show himself. According to Gentry, Hank appeared, shirtless, on his couch. By 4 a.m, The Ride was written.
Then a crowd just south of Nashville.
David Allan Coe recorded it for his 1983 comeback album, Castles in the Sand. The song became the biggest hit of his career. 19 weeks on the Billboard country chart, peaking at number 4.
Mr. Many thanks. He said, you don't have to call me Mr. The whole
And number 1 on the Cashbox chart. Gentry has told the story since. The first time he performed it live at the Opry House, on the exact line revealing the mysterious driver as the ghost of Hank Williams, every light in the building went out.
have you paid your dues? Can you find the blues? Can you bring them guitars?
Believe the ghost story or don't. Either way, it's one of the strangest true tales behind any top 5 country single ever recorded. From a haunted highway to a haunted marriage. Our next entry is one half of the most publicly painful divorce in country music, set to music.
You know, things aren't like they was in the 50s when I was their son. You got a lot of competition now.
Number 10, Golden Ring. George Jones and Tammy Wynette, 1976.
But it's the best that I can do. Golden ring.
A pawnshop window, a wedding ring catching the light, waiting for its next owner. Written by Bobby Braddock and Rafe Van Hoy, Golden Ring traces one ring through an entire relationship.
Tiny thing, only love can make a golden wedding ring.
The excitement of a young engagement, the vows, and finally, the fight that ends with the ring thrown down and the door slammed. By the final verse, it's back in the pawn shop window, waiting for the next couple foolish enough to believe in forever.
Tiny little stones, shining ring, shining ring. Now at last it
George Jones and Tammy Wynette recorded it as a duet, and it hit number 1 on the Billboard country chart in 1976, 14 months after the two of them had actually gotten divorced. They weren't performing heartbreak.
He says you won't admit it, but I know you're leaving town.
They were reliving it in 3-part harmony for a paying audience, over and over, for years. It takes guts to sing your own divorce on the radio. It takes something else entirely to accuse your own industry of murder on live television.
with one tiny little stone cast aside.
Quick pause before we hit the back half of this list, because these next few songs get heavier, and I don't want you to miss them. If you care about the stories behind the music as much as the music itself, that's exactly what we do here at Retrovibes. Digging up the country history that radio, and honestly, time itself, tried to bury. Hit subscribe if you want more of it. It genuinely helps keep these stories alive. All right, back to the countdown.
They're on display. Go.
Number 9, Murder on Music Row. George Strait and Alan Jackson, 2000.
They never found.
No blood, no body. Just an accusation delivered calmly into a microphone in front of the very people it was accusing. Murder on Music Row was written by bluegrass artist Larry Caudle.
Slowly kill tradition.
And Larry Shell, a lament that traditional country, steel guitars, fiddles, three chords and the truth, had been quietly killed off by an industry chasing pop crossover money. The lyrics don't hold back. They got away with murder down on Music Row.
You tell 'em they all say.
George Strait and Alan Jackson, two of the biggest names the genre had, recorded it as a duet and performed it live for a room full of the very executives the song was accusing. It was never officially released as a single.
Rock and roll guitars are mixed up in your.
It still climbed to number 38 on the country chart, purely from unsolicited radio play. And the following year, the Country Music Association handed it the award for Song of the Year. Nashville's own establishment gave its highest honor to a song that opens with the line,
Murder down on Music Row.
"Someone killed country music, cut out its heart and soul." That's not a footnote. That's the entire music industry applauding its own indictment. Our next artist also had something to say about being left behind by Nashville. Except this one had to write his way back from oblivion first.
They thought no one would miss.
Number 8. Seminole Wind. John Anderson, 1992. The Florida Everglades. Wind moving through sawgrass that's been there longer than the state itself. By 1990, John Anderson, once one of the biggest stars in country music, had watched 9 straight singles fail to crack the top 20. He'd been quietly written off.
Silver and for gold, I leave the empty holes.
Then he wrote Seminole Wind himself, a song about the Seminole people's stolen land, framed through the voice of the wind itself, mourning what progress had paved over. The song reached number 2 on the Billboard country chart.
Never gonna go again. I'm calling to you like a long-lost friend.
And its parent album went double platinum, Anderson's best-selling record of his career. The music video was filmed on location in the Everglades, alongside members of the Seminole tribe. It's an environmental song, a history lesson, and a comeback story. Wound into one 3-minute track, and it's the song responsible for saving John Anderson's career. Not every comeback belongs to the person singing it, though. Our next story belongs to a stranger nobody ever got the chance to know. Number 7. Old Dogs, Children and Watermelon Wine. Tom T. Hall, 1972.
I turned 65 about 11 months ago.
A near-empty hotel bar in Miami Beach. Every other soul in the building is across the street at the Democratic National Convention. Tom T. Hall sits down with a drink. An elderly janitor sweeping the floor strikes up a conversation.
He sat down and he opened up his mind.
He tells Hall, without prompting, that in his whole life, there's only 3 things worth a solitary dime: old dogs, children, and watermelon wine. Hall listens. He doesn't answer back. The next morning, on the flight home, Hall wrote the entire lyric down on an air sickness bag.
Watermelon wine he had.
He had a recording session already booked in Nashville. He walked in with the words finished and no melody at all, and wrote the tune on the spot. Old Dogs, Children, and Watermelon Wine became Hall's 3rd number 1 on the Billboard country chart and earned him a Grammy nomination for Best Country Song.
Terry died, but old dogs and children.
One of the most quoted lines in country music history, and the man who actually said it first was never even named. Some songs get buried by accident. Our next one was buried on purpose, twice, by the very man who eventually made it his own.
They said, you know, women think about this.
Number 6. Amanda, Waylon Jennings, 1974/1979.
Surprised at the hair on my shoulders.
A receptionist's desk in a Nashville office building. A demo tape sits there, untouched, gathering dust. Songwriter Bob McDill personally brought Amanda to Waylon Jennings's office. Jennings wasn't in. McDill left the tape at the front desk and asked that Waylon listen to it. He never did. Don Williams recorded it instead in 1973. When Jennings heard Williams's version on the radio, he called McDill and said,
I was 14 when I finally passed 4.
"That's the story of my life, Hoss. Why didn't you give me that song?" McDill's answer, "It's still sitting on your receptionist's desk." Jennings finally recorded Amanda himself in 1974 for his album The Rambling Man.
Should have made you the gentleman's wife.
And then didn't release it as a single either. It sat quietly for nearly 5 more years until it was overdubbed and reissued on his 1979 Greatest Hits album, where it finally hit number 1. A song about middle age,
Of my life. Fate should have made
regret, and how much better someone deserved. And Waylon Jennings ignored it, twice, before it became one of the songs he's most remembered for. From a song nobody would listen to a song about a generation nobody could answer for.
It's an awful awakening.
Number 5. Grandpa, Tell Me About the Good Old Days. The Judds, 1986. A granddaughter, overwhelmed by how fast and confusing the modern world has gotten, turning to the one person she trusts to tell her it used to be simpler. Written by Jamie O'Hara, the song has Naomi and Winona Judd asking, verse after verse,
Stand beside each other, come what may.
whether love really lasted forever back then, whether families really prayed together, whether fathers really never walked away. Grandpa became the Judds' 6th number 1 on the Billboard Country chart, won Jamie O'Hara a Grammy for Best Country Song,
Grandpa, tell me about the good old days.
and was later named one of the top 100 Western songs of all time by the Western Writers of America. Here's what almost nobody notices on first listen. Grandpa never actually answers. Not one line of the song is his response. The listener is left to decide. On their own, whether the good old days were ever really that good, or just easier to remember that way. Our next song also refuses to give you a clean answer, because the man who wrote it never would either.
Grandpa, everything has changed.
Number 4. Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. Willie Nelson, 1981.
To the ground.
A wounded angel. Someone patches the broken wing, nurses it back to health, and watches it fly away anyway, exactly like they always knew it would. Willie Nelson wrote Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground in 1976 and sat on it for 5 years, waiting, in his words, for the right moment so it wouldn't get lost in the shuffle. That moment came with the 1980 film Honeysuckle Rose, where Nelson played a struggling touring musician. Released as a single in 1981, It became Nelson's 7th solo #1 on the Billboard country chart. Nelson has never fully confirmed who the song is actually about. Some fans point to a close friend in the Hells Angels who died. Others believe it's about his marriage at the time to his then-wife Connie. Nelson's own answer has always been the same. It's general enough that everyone gets to apply it to their own life. A song that became one of his most personal-sounding hits, and he never once told anyone whose story it actually was. Our next song also carries a grief that outlived the moment it was written for, because 14 years after it was recorded, it stopped being fiction.
Past the speed of sound.
Number 3, Chiseled in Stone, Vern Gosdin.
Ran crying to the bedroom. I ran off to the bar.
A bar. A young man storms in after a fight with the woman he loves. An old-timer at the counter tells him to be grateful. At least she's alive to fight with. Vern Gosdin co-wrote Chiseled in Stone with songwriter Max D. Barnes.
And thank your lucky star.
Who had already buried his own 18-year-old son in a car accident before the two of them ever sat down to write it. Every line about loneliness, about a tombstone, about what real grief actually feels like. It came from somewhere real. The song only reached number 6 on the Billboard country chart. It didn't matter.
That's still living.
The Country Music Association named it Song of the Year in 1989 anyway, because the room recognized what it was hearing. 14 years later, in 2002, Vern Gosdin's own son, Marty, was killed. The song he'd spent over a decade singing as someone else's tragedy
You don't know about.
had quietly become his own. Our next song faced a very different kind of resistance, not from grief, but from an entire industry too afraid to play it. Number 2, She Thinks His Name Was John, Reba McEntire. A hospital bed.
Pretty flowers, hoping you would understand.
A young woman, dying, trying and failing to remember the name of a stranger from one night years earlier. The night that ended up costing her everything. Written by Sandy Knox, who lost her own brother to AIDS after a blood transfusion in the early 80s.
Or how long?
The song told the story of a woman contracting HIV from a single, uncharacteristic one-night stand. It was the first major country single to directly confront the AIDS crisis. Reba McEntire released it in the summer of 1994.
You don't know about.
Several radio stations refused to add it to rotation because of the subject matter. It peaked at number 15, one of the weakest chart showings of McEntire's career at that point, despite 2 decades of #1 hits behind her. The song cost her the charts. It didn't cost her the culture.
You don't know about long.
Country radio in 1994 wasn't ready to talk about AIDS out loud. Reba McEntire made them sit with it for 4 minutes anyway. And that brings us to number 1. The story behind this final song isn't just the most overlooked entry on this list. It might be the truest one. Number 1. Where've You Been? Kathy Mattea, 1989.
Claire had all but given up when she.
A hospital. 2 wings, 2 patients. 2 people who've spent 60 years together and don't even know they're under the same roof. Where've You Been was written by John Vesner and Don Henry, and it wasn't fiction.
The day
Vesna wrote it about his own grandparents. His grandmother had slipped into dementia, no longer recognizing family, no longer speaking at all. His grandfather was in the same hospital for a separate illness. Vesna asked a nurse if his grandfather could be wheeled down to see her. She said yes.
He was home each night.
His grandfather sat beside her, stroking her hair, saying, "Look at her hair. Nobody has hair like Grandma." And for the first time in weeks, she spoke. She looked at him and said, "Where have you been?"
To the floor until his key turned.
Vesna played the finished song for Kathy Mattea, his eventual wife, at the celebration party for one of her earlier #1 hits. She said her head spun around before the first chorus even finished. Where Have You Been won the Grammy for Best Country Song.
They'd never.
And was named Song of the Year by both the Country Music Association and the Academy of Country Music in 1990. And yet, on the Billboard country chart itself, it only ever reached #10. Think about that for a second.
In separate beds on different floors.
Every major songwriting body in the genre agreed it was the best song of the year, and it still couldn't crack the top 5 on the radio. That, in the end, is the thread running through every single song on this list. Skip a Rope was #1 and still got forgotten.
She never spoke a word again.
Chiseled in Stone only reached #6 and became a song of the year that turned prophetic. Amanda got ignored twice before anyone would listen. None of these songs were ever measured correctly by where they landed on a chart. They were measured by what they cost the people who wrote them.
And in a fragile voice she said,
and what they gave back to everyone who really listened. Kathy Mattea once said she wondered if anyone would want to hear a song about dementia on their way to work in the morning. They did. They still do. Because the truth, sung plainly enough,
forever and a day.
never actually goes out of style. It just waits for someone to go looking for it again. And that's exactly what we just did.
I'm just not myself when you're away.